Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. I hope you're well always. So today we're going to be doing a pick a card reading, kind of like a cord cutting tarot reading, looking at what are you ready to release right now, what is ready to be released. So I'm feeling a really strong energy lately of like this kind of transitional time between two phases of life. And basically I finally had this huge channeling come through about the cord cutting light language. So a few months ago I'd mentioned about a cord cutting light language, and some of you guys were really resonant with wanting to receive that. So I kept that in mind, but it didn't really occur to me, like it didn't really, tug on me. Like I didn't feel this pull to kind of record it and do it. But then certain things have just like played out in my life recently where it's this perfect opportunity to work with this energy that I'm healing in myself around cutting cords and letting go of certain things that can be very, very painful to work with. So the healing, I channeled it today and it was quite deep. So we started in the heart and there was a lot of work done in the heart to do with clearing the cords, cutting the cords, cleansing them with love and light and things like this, and just working with the letting go and the grief and the loss that can come with endings and new beginnings. And then we moved down into the lower chakras and worked with those quite in depth with their own messages and energies as we rebalanced them. Then we came back into the heart and then we worked up from the higher heart, the throat, to the third eye, to the crown. And then we worked in the aura. So it was like a full body clearing, cleansing, activation, cord cutting, meditation, light language, kind of guided ritual. It went for about 40 minutes, and yeah, so I'm going to be linking all the information down below if you feel kind of drawn to that at this time, and there'll be like a write-up that will explain a bit more about it. So I'm going to show you the cards now for the reading, and then I'll see you afterwards. Much love. Okay, so group 1, you chose the solar plexus chakra. So what are you ready to release right now? I feel like you're ready to face a fear of some kind. Like the solar plexus, the shadow of the solar plexus can really talk about our fears in life. And I'm kind of feeling like what you're releasing is the fear. So it's kind of like how they say, you have to face a fear in order to get over it. I feel like that's kind of what's going on for you right now. So you're cutting cords with limiting beliefs, with some kind of limitation that was holding you back from fully living and fully expressing yourself in the world, like fully taking up space. There was some kind of limitation, like a restriction, and you're facing some kind of fear with that, and you're expanding beyond that. So you're really expanding into the world. You're expanding with your consciousness, but you're really expanding into the world at the moment. Like you're busting through a lot of limitations. Like I feel like you've lived under some kind of limitations for a while where you've really held yourself back out of fear, out of, the energy is really fear. The fear of putting yourself out there, of having a voice, of having an opinion, of being seen, of being successful, fear of success, fear of shining, fear of so many, like fear of really fully just truly living and being free. There were so many layers of fear. So I'm feeling like, okay, so the main thing I'm picking up is, what are you letting go of? You're letting go of fear. The shadow energy in the solar plexus is fear, but we move up kind of into courage, right? But there's just a shift in the way that you live your life. It's like you're not being held back anymore. Okay, so let's tune in. We're going to use the tarot. I've got this Midnight Magic tarot deck. It's got all these mushrooms in it. It's really cute. Okay, so we're going to pull a card, like what are you releasing right now, group 1? What is ready to be released for you? What is ready to be released? Whoa. Back of the deck, we have the Lovers. And then we have the Chariot as well. So the Chariot is about moving forwards like quickly. So you're releasing limitations that was keeping you stuck. It's like the fears were keeping you on a certain timeline because you were manifesting based on what you believed you were capable of, or what you believed that... There's like some serious clearing here of self-sabotage tendencies, and it's actually a beautiful thing because I feel like you've become aware of ways that you were holding yourself back or self-sabotaging subconsciously without realizing it, through limiting beliefs like I could never do that, or I'm not good enough to do that. So there's been some serious mindset shifts. And I'm feeling like as well, some of you, it's about receiving love, like recognizing that you're lovable as you are and receiving love, like in this moment, receiving love. Yeah, for some of you, this is releasing the blocks to having a loving relationship, having a divine counterpart, letting in soul family, letting in relationships, letting in twin flames, letting in love in all ways to come into your life. And for some of you, it's like the fear was super about relationships, maybe not wanting to open your heart again to like new relationships. So there's some kind of like crashing down of the walls, because the Chariot talks about moving forwards like quickly, like it's like zooming off into the distance. So I'm seeing like some kind of walls within you are going to come down really fast, and it's because the world around you is requiring it of you. Like, for example, you might like have a twin flame come into your life, and you know, there's not really any choice. Like, the universe decides when this will happen. So you might all of a sudden have this insanely activating relationship that's kind of like forcing all of these walls to come crumbling, and tumbling down, so that you're kind of having to face that fear and then expand beyond that, because the circumstance is requiring it of you. Look at this. Back of the deck on this deck is relationship. As I'm tuning in, I just saw it there, sitting there. Spirit showed it to me. So I think for a lot of you, this is about relationship and like letting the love in, letting the relationship in, letting the love in, you know, realizing that you are lovable and enough as you are. Sometimes we have an idea of like that we have to be all these different ways before we can meet somebody, or we have to, you know, look a certain way, or I don't know, have made a certain amount of money, or whatever it might be that makes us think that we'll then be more lovable by that person, you know. But this is where this sort of shadow of the fear comes in, is like thinking, oh, I'm not, kind of, I don't know, it's like this fear of being seen is what I'm getting. So anyway, there is some fear, but it's going to be like busted through. It's going to be broken down. It's going to be like faced and integrated and overcome. Even if it's something as massive as like a phobia, like for some of you, this could be a really deep fear about relationship, or like letting love in, or you might have a really strong thing of like, this isn't happening right now. This can't be happening right now. Anyway, but something's going to be happening on Spirit's own clock, Spirit's own timing. And it's going to make these walls come crumbling down, and you're ready to release them. Like, this is the thing. This thing in your environment coming in, it's coming in because you're ready to release it. It's coming in because you're ready to release the blocks and the fears. Like, you're ready to overcome it. Spirit wouldn't put it there unless it was time for you to kind of release it and let it go. So there is a lot of assurance coming through, basically, that it might feel kind of intense in the moment as you're facing a fear, but it's only showing up because you're ready, because you actually are ready. And sometimes the universe and Spirit knows that better than we know for ourselves, if we're ready or not. You know, we have to kind of work with universe's timing. So something's going to move forwards for you really fast, and it will force you to face your fears. So for those of you who don't resonate maybe with the relationship example, it's something where something's going to pick up really quickly. Like, you're really having to face your fears in a work setting, because you're getting heaps more eyes on you, getting a lot more attention, you're getting more notoriety, and therefore maybe more criticism, or more, like, it's just more. And it might be kind of like, whoa, I really have to face my fear here about being seen, or a deep fear of success, or of outshining someone, or going further maybe than your family of origin ever have. Like, there can be a lot of subconscious fears that we might not realize how much they might be programming us until we're facing some kind of experience in our life that kind of forces us to grow. And then we're like, oh my gosh, I have this fear of, outshining my sister or my mother or something like that. It's really interesting, the different things that we have going on. So there's some kind of fear like that that's going to be triggered. It's like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden you're making so much money and you had to face this fear that maybe you had around individuating, or I don't know, letting yourself be seen, letting yourself be heard. I don't know, it's a really beautiful fear though, as in it's a beautiful alchemy of the fear, because it's happening really fast. And it's kind of like almost one that maybe would have been easy to kind of ignore or put off or procrastinate. So Spirit's kind of like forcing it to all happen all at once, where it's like, oh, we're not allowed to stay in our comfort zone anymore. It's like there's something about getting out of that comfort zone, getting more into the world, experiencing the world. Even if it is uncomfortable at times, it's still a vehicle of growth, and it still helps us to kind of alchemize the things that we're working with. So there's something, again, just coming through about like facing your fears could also be in quite a generalized way, where it's like you're just being called more to get out of the comfort zone. Sometimes we have periods in life, they might stretch on for years even, where Spirit really gives you the grace to hermit away and heal yourself and really work on yourself and be with yourself and not socialize and not maybe have to do a lot of work in the external. Maybe it's more internal work and healing work and stuff. But there also comes a time where Spirit like starts to push you out into the world, or starts to push you onto the world stage, maybe to get your work out there in the world, to get your opinions out there into the world, to get your voice out there into the world. And even if you feel like you might not be ready, Spirit always knows. Spirit always knows that you are ready. And now I'm also getting a strong energy coming through about your voice coming into the world, and how there is fears around your voice, around being heard and around communication and speaking the truth. But Spirit's saying that there's a real need for your voice to be heard in the world. There's a real need for this. Like, yeah, I'm getting a very, very strong calling for your particular voice current to come into the world and to influence the world. It can't be done by anyone else. It has to be your voice that activates, because you have a specific perspective on life that can help people. You have a specific way of seeing things that will activate things for certain people. Like, you are the voice that certain people need to activate their mission. So there will come a time where it's like you won't be able to hide anymore. And for some of you, I feel like that time's coming quicker than you thought. You might have thought you had a lot more time of incubation and hermiting, but Spirit might be pushing you out onto the stage. And the thing is that it's because you're ready to release these fears. And a lot of the time, the only way that we release the fear is by facing the fear. We have to kind of face it. So there's some kind of alchemy work where it's like you're going to be keeping on pushing. Spirit's going to keep pushing you to expand, to expand, to expand. And sometimes you might feel like Spirit's being a bit pushy with the Chariot. You might be like, Spirit, you're being way too bossy here. I don't want to have to get out of hermit mode or whatever it is. But you're going to be subtly, gently, gracefully guided to make the right choices with the Lovers. The Lovers is about making our choices in life. You're going to be guided subtly towards the right choices that's going to sort of activate all of this. It might feel like sometimes, that it's a lot, but it's because an old way of being is dying, Spirit's saying, like an old way of thinking, an old way of operating, where you're like, oh, wait a minute, these like narratives of I'm not ready yet, or I'm not good enough yet, or I'm not refined enough yet, like those narratives aren't working anymore. And you're actually being forced to be like, okay, it's time, I'm ready, I'm enough, it's good enough. Like, there could also be perfectionism here. the shadows of perfectionism, that's actually very strong with the solar plexus energy, the shadows of perfectionism. And the thing is that perfectionism is paralyzing, you know, and Spirit's saying that it is like almost a karmic energy where it's like you are needing to share your voice. This has come through for like 6 months or so in channelings for YouTube, is that it gets to a point on your path with like your consciousness level and your wisdom and the amount that you know and perceive and feel and your own healing journey, and it kind of corresponds with your own healing journey. Anyway, you get to a point in your path where you have to share what you know. It doesn't matter how good you think you are or whatever, how perfect it might or might not be. It's like there has to be an exchange. There has to be a sharing outwards as well as a taking in inwards. Like Spirit wants you to speak what you know. Like you don't just know these things for no reason. There are reasons you have downloads. There are reasons you have these insights. You have these gifts. You have these channeling abilities. So it's like, for a lot of you, I feel like this is what it is. It's pushing you back. For some of you, it's back out onto the stage. Maybe you took a retreat and it's time to go back into that kind of world arena and share with people like what it is that you have to share and what it is that you know, and face the fears and the limiting beliefs, because ultimately the limiting beliefs are untrue. It's like false evidence appearing real is these limiting beliefs. And I do feel like things are going to be showing up in your reality that kind of force this belief to change. Like, for example, if you've been waiting for your divine counterpart in relationship, then it might be like you've been working with a limiting belief around not feeling lovable, or feeling like, you know, alienated and like you're never going to find someone that you resonate with, or something like this, some kind of limiting belief coming up. Well, once you meet this person, it's going to force all of that negative belief, those limiting ways of seeing yourself, it's going to force it out. It's not going to have any space because you have evidence in front of you every day of someone loving you and seeing you as lovable, or of finding someone that doesn't make you feel like an alien in the world anymore. So you see what I mean? It's like these limiting beliefs are going to have evidence that kind of counteracts it to such an extent that they will kind of go away completely. So it's very deep work. It's the energy I was picking up before about how you can genuinely shift phobias and fears, like where you can be so afraid of something or even have a phobia against something, but if you face that and you genuinely get over it, then you're freed from it. Well, Spirit's saying that it's like the same with limiting beliefs. It's just that it takes a lot longer to free yourself from, usually. Like belief work takes a bit longer usually. So, but Spirit's saying that you've been doing a lot of the work, so that it's actually the outcome of all the work that you've been doing. And interestingly enough, I think that Spirit's saying that you've been living with these limiting beliefs for so long that you might feel like you don't even know what life feels like to not have them anymore. You've kind of been projecting these limiting beliefs onto your future, and then having them taken away, there's going to be so much freedom opened up where you're like, whoa, I could actually do anything I wanted with my life. I didn't realize how free that I actually am. So that's also the Chariot energy, is like this freedom where it's like you just have things opened up. These limiting beliefs create barriers, it creates resistance when we're trying to manifest and move forward. So it's like, imagine how fast you could move without them. Imagine how quickly you would move forwards without these limitations. Wow. So with the Lovers as well, it's like, this is also, I feel, speaking about because the Lovers is like the twins, so I'm getting the split between our conscious and our subconscious mind. And when we heal at a level of our belief, we're kind of bringing unity consciousness to our subconscious and conscious mind. We're kind of bringing them together into unity, into unification, where our conscious mind knows that we are worthy of love, and our subconscious mind also knows that we are worthy of love. Whereas a lot of the time in the subconscious is where we have these negative limiting beliefs that might that always stem from our childhood, where we might feel like, oh, I'm not worthy of love. And this is kind of playing out and playing out, playing out, even though you consciously know that you're worthy of love, right? This subconscious thing can be blocking that. So you're doing massive alchemy work to be able to bring the subconscious and the conscious into unity, into oneness, where they are harmonious with one another, where you both consciously and subconsciously know that you are deeply deserving of love, and therefore you can receive it in every area of your life. So whether this is going to, for you, like play out more in your career stage, or it might be playing out for you more in like relationships, especially romantic relationships. I'm feeling a huge expansion for you, group 1, and a real letting go of fear and limiting beliefs, a facing of fear, a triumph over fear, victory over the fear, expansion, love, and a unification energy between the conscious and the subconscious. Okay, much love, group 1, and take good care. Okay, group 2, you chose the hawk, omens and messages. So I feel like reluctance here about maybe receiving an omen or a message that it's time to let go of someone. I feel like it's probably a relationship, because they tend to be things that are the hardest to let go of, but it could, I guess, be something else. But it's something that you've been getting an omen or a message about from spirit, or your own intuition. Like maybe it's come in cycles, is what I'm being shown now, where it's like maybe not all of the time you had this intuition, but then it would come really strongly and you'd feel like, oh, I really feel like it's time to end this connection or this relationship, or I feel like maybe this person's not a good match for me anymore, or we've grown apart, or something to do with this intuition that you've been getting about someone, or it could be something, it could be a place technically, but it's something that you've outgrown, or that you are rapidly outgrowing, and it's something that you're becoming cognizant and aware that you can't bring with you to the next phase of your journey. Like it could be a person, it could be a job, it could be something that could be really quite challenging to let go of. And there's something here about the independence Spirit's wanting to remind you of, because there's a part of you that's reluctant to receive the message that Spirit's been sending, and that's why it's like maybe not been fully going through, or it's temporarily going through, and then there's reluctance or resistance, or there's kind of like burying your head back in the sand and being like, no, I didn't just receive that intuitive message, and kind of like using self-doubt as a way of like, creating this confusion, when really deep down your soul already knows, like your being already knows the truth. So there's 2 cards on the back of the deck that were just sitting there looking at me and they feel really relevant for your reading. So if you did come from group 1, this was on the back of the deck for group 1, but I shuffled before group 2 and it was still the back of the deck card for group 2. So this is what was making me think relationship for some of you. It could be romantic relationship, or any kind of relationship or partnership or connection, can be very challenging to let go of. Could be a pet of some kind as well. And it could have even been, the death of a pet or something that's very hard to kind of accept and move forwards with. But there's a message coming through that it's in alignment with the highest good of all for this to have ended at this time. Like, even though it can be really challenging to understand the way that these sort of larger cycles work, there's something here about reaching your destination. Your light is shining brightly, where this person, place, or thing, or animal couldn't come with you to the next phase of your journey. It wasn't a vibrational match anymore for whatever reason. And sometimes the hardest endings to come by are with those people, places, and things that might not even really be overtly toxic or evil or negative. It could be something that you've simply outgrown vibrationally. And there might still be a lot of love there, but there's this message coming through around change, or around leaving, around letting go, around kind of taking the invitation to the next step of your journey, allowing yourself to level up, allowing yourselves to move forwards. And, I'm getting the image of the rocket ship for this group. So it's been coming through a lot in my energy readings recently. It's just a strong image. The rocket ship, as it launches off from Earth, aspects of it fall away and fall away and fall away. And it has to let go of, so it becomes light enough to reach those great heights, So during ascension, we have things that fall away and fall away and fall away, and they can't come with us to those higher and higher places. They won't be a vibrational match the whole way of your journey. And Spirit's saying that this causes our human self a lot of pain and suffering, because we become very attached to people, places, and things, and we want them to be with us forever, because that's sort of our definition of love in a way on Earth, is like it's forever, right? But Spirit's saying that there is a deep kind of practice and teaching around letting go happening on Earth at this time. Like many, many, many of us are going through this initiation of learning how to let go at a deeper level. Letting go maybe of how you want something to be right now, or letting go of, like I said, a person, place, or a thing. There's some kind of grief to do with that. Like it could even be like going through some kind of a health issue or a detox journey where you have to let go with how your body might be feeling that day. So there's some kind of grief I'm feeling processing in this group. And for some of you, it's been a big thing, like maybe an animal has passed away, or something like that. Or for others of you, it might be more subconscious, like you've just been waking up to something, and it's going to be one of those painful ones when we wake up to something painful, and it's like, oh no, I have to like break up with this person, or whatever it might be. And it's it's going to be kind of like a painful thing, which is why it takes us longer, I think, to integrate it as true. Okay, but there's a message coming through where it's like you're ready now to just get the message, basically, and just be like, okay, this is true. This is what it is. This thing is over, or I'm not a match to this anymore. I have to honor this. I have to move forwards to the next level. And there's some kind of wisdom here around letting go and like removing attachments. It might even be removing attachments to like some kind of physical possessions even, or removing attachments to like a hometown or a place that you've always lived, or a style of living that you've always lived. It's some kind of phase of your life ending, and you're being called to take like radical action and create radical change in your life, because otherwise you won't create what's necessary for the next cycle of your life. If you choose to not move forwards at this time, it's like I see you creating another karmic loop with the same players playing the same game, if that makes sense, as a way of putting it. You're kind of at a crossroads where it's like it's time to choose something new, to expand beyond what you know. But there also equally might be a strong part of you that's pulling you in the other direction, where you're like, no, but I want to stay with this person, or I want to stay in this place, or I want to stay at this job, or I don't know, something about not letting go of something, holding on to something. And I'm just seeing that doing that is creating, like, it's slowing you down, like it's creating a lag in your path. And there's something about when you're ready to let go and kind of create some independence from this thing, some freedom from this thing, you're going to reach some kind of new level. This is part of you reaching your destination and your light shining brightly, meaning you're at a very high frequency in doing this. It's allowing you to have a high frequency. And I'm feeling the challenge of this decision, I'm feeling the challenge of this decision. It feels like a heavy decision maybe, or one that's like bittersweet because you're really excited for the new, but then there's still pain around the things that have ended or the things that can't come with you, the relationships, the people, the places, whatever it is. So you're really in this transitional time, group 2, where it's like there's a lot of things that have been ending cyclically, like in cycles. You're in the end of a cycle and the beginning of the birth of a new one. But Spirit's saying you still kind of have to make your choices. You still have to make the choice to get the message. That's what I'm getting. It's like, what are you ready to release is the resistance to receiving the message that's been here for some time now. Around change, around growth, around freedom, around individuation and independence. There's another message coming through around independence of some kind, because we have the 9 of Pentacles sitting on the bottom of this other deck that I have here. And the 9 of Pentacles talks about financial independence and freedom, like when we kind of are able to pay our own way in life and, you know, make things for ourselves, make a life for ourselves, where we're not so dependent on other people, or we've reached a point of abundance where things are flowing a bit easier for us, you know, might not have to work as hard at the business or something like that. So there's something about this crossroads with this letting go that's going to foster a greater sense of independence within you and freedom. And I do see this changing, actually, probably, yes, it will be changing your financial outcomes as well. In making this decision to like free yourself, you're going to be able to create more abundance for yourself rather than relying upon someone else or another connection or a certain job or career identity to make money. It's like, or a family member or something. Spirit's saying like cutting these cords is going to help you to make money for yourself, to individuate in that way where you're supporting financially yourself. Because whilst it can definitely be in alignment to receive money from others, like it's not a bad thing to do, especially, you know, sometimes we plan our life that way to, you know, have a loved one support us. But sometimes Spirit is saying there can be cords that can come with along with that money that's like subconsciously connected to the money or to the dependence or whatever onto that person or that workplace. And those cords can not always serve our highest good. They can be kind of negative influences a bit. So for some of you, maybe the message that you've been getting is around money or finances, or maybe like becoming an entrepreneur, for example, like, or becoming a business owner, like becoming independent in the way that you make money so you're not reliant on other people. There's something about listening to that message, listening to the messages that Spirit's been giving you, even if it evokes fear, even if it feels like you have resistance to that, like resistance to facing the truth about a relationship that you might have, you know, might no longer be serving you, or resistance to facing the truth about a workplace that's not in alignment and it's actually time to go on and do your own business. It's like, yes, these things can create resistance, but there's something about Spirit saying just accepting the message will free you. Accepting the message will free you. And, you know, I kept tuning in with the hawk at the beginning of your reading, so I was just meditating, tuning in with your energy. And the hawk kept being shown to me as like flying, like I felt like I was the hawk and I was flying. And I was kind of like wondering, like, what does this mean? Like, I'm just a hawk that's flying. It didn't feel like it was a really interesting message because I just basically felt like I was just flying around as this hawk. But now as I tune in, I feel like it's about freedom, because the overwhelming feeling that I felt as I was flying was freedom. Like I felt really free and like a totally different way of experiencing the world than being in the human body and, you know, all kinds of stuff. Like I've always wanted to fly. I mean, hasn't everyone? But anyway, so there's a gift that birds have in their ability to fly and like spread their wings and expand, and it's such a beautiful art form. So anyway, there's something here about once you accept the message, accepting the truth of what your intuition has maybe been trying to tell you, it will release so much resistance and you'll fly, like you'll feel so free. You'll feel so free like you're flying, and it will be like, oh, so much relief and release, because there's been a lot of energy taken up between these two energies of like where you're kind of, I feel like sometimes you're in this lucid sort of place where you're like, oh, I totally see what Spirit's been trying to say. I get the download. I know what I'm meant to do, you know. And then other times you're in more like distortion and fear of like, I'm not good enough, or having self-doubts, or thinking, no, this person is right for me, or I'm not ready to let them go. I'm not ready to move forwards. There's been like this split energy, and I feel like it's been draining you a lot more than you realize. Like, it's been a lot more energy draining than you've realized, because a lot of it's been happening subconsciously. And there's been a lot of different emotions that might have been kind of subconsciously kind of pushed down, because, you know, we have to get on with everyday life, so we can't always be processing emotions, right? But there has been some painful ones that have come up that it's sort of easy to just kind of be like, push. I don't want to deal with this. It's too painful. There's something very, very painful about what it is that has to be let go of. But the thing is that Spirit really, 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 really wants you to know that it's in the highest good. Like for example, I'm thinking about a situation that I once knew, where it's like someone that I knew had a friend, and the friend was really attached to them, but they didn't really like them back. And so they felt really guilty because they didn't really reciprocate the friendship, but this person was quite lonely and they didn't have very many friends. So this person that I knew would always hang out with this person, even though they hated doing it. And they just hated it. Like they would feel drained, they would feel bored, they would feel resentful, they would feel all of these negative emotions, but they just like wouldn't stop doing it because they felt so guilty or bad to set a boundary and be like, you know what, sorry, I can't hang out with you anymore. Like, they were kind of doing it out of feeling bad. And Spirit's saying that whilst in that moment they might have thought they were doing the right thing, or the good thing, the good-hearted thing, to be like, well, I'm just going to hang out with this person because otherwise I feel bad for hurting their feelings. It's like, in the like larger scheme of things, in the broader picture of things, it's creating more suffering to kind of live in that inauthentic way and create so much pain in yourself, where it's like, it's so painful to be around this person, but you won't stop it because you don't want to hurt their feelings. It's like, but you're hurting your own feelings so much more than just ending something, being authentic and being like, sorry, and moving forward so that that person can, you know, find someone else who they can have true connection with. So that's what Spirit's saying about this situation. It's something like that, where I know that's, you know, I'm not saying it's going to be like that, but I'm saying it's a similar energy where you might feel like the kinder thing to do is to keep this person in your life, but actually it's not kinder, it's not more compassionate, it's not more loving, because from the highest perspective, from the perspective of all, you know, it's in the highest good of all for this thing to be ended and for you to move up a level and move up a frequency. This person, place, or thing is holding you back in your energy, and it will until the boundary is set and you move forwards with it. So Spirit's saying, don't become distorted in your way of thinking, where you're thinking that sacrificing yourself and your own well-being is somehow better than making a sacrifice of letting this relationship, thing, person, place go. Because it's not. Like, Spirit wants you to sacrifice the right thing, because when we go through ascension, sometimes we are called to make sacrifice, and it's not like human sacrifice or anything like that, horrible thing like that. It's a spiritual, holy sacrifice that comes through alignment and the fact that our human self, while we're on earth, will pick up attachments to things, to physical possessions, to people, to places, to all kinds of things. And it might not always serve our highest good to keep those attachments. So when we're ready to ascend, we have to let go of another layer. We have to let go of another thing. And that can feel very painful for our human self, even though our higher self, our soul, is understanding that it's all in alignment with the highest good. And it's in the grand scheme of the plan of things that this thing is let go of at this time. And maybe there's even a soul contract, you know, between you two for this thing to end at this time, and it's perfectly in alignment. So Spirit really is saying it's perfectly in alignment for this to end. That's why it's time for you to release it, and that's why it's time for it to be released. Yes. And it will greatly raise your frequency once this is released, and you will permanently be moved up a level. and you will be permanently changed and operating from a different frequency and operating within different bandwidth. Okay, group 2, your reading just cut out there. So that is the end of your reading, but I do hope that it has served you today, and take really, really good care. And yeah, consider checking out my cord cutting meditation light language healing. Bye. Okay, group 3, you chose protected by angels. You are cherished by the angels. Okay, so what are you ready to release right now? I feel like you're ready, you are releasing yourself into the world. Like you're releasing yourself, or you're unleashing yourself. Like I don't feel really, it's almost like it's not about what you're releasing in terms of the things that you're letting go. It's more about what you're receiving, because you're about to receive a lot. But it's all coming from yourself. Like it's coming from who you really are, like a fulfillment of your mission. There's some kind of a completion, an embodiment of a part of your mission that spirit wants you to know, that you are protected by the angels. Like you can achieve something. Look at the back of the deck. Oh, we had 2 come out. Choosing your path, all is possible. This is the one I was going to talk about. But then we also have distant thunder, clear the air. Oh my gosh. And we also have answering the call, the time is now, and stepping into power. You are stronger, you are strong beyond measure. Okay, so we had a lot come through. There's something shifting for you right now where it's like, yes, you're stepping into your power now. Like you're answering the call, like the time is now, and spirit wants to clear the air with you. Literally clear the air with you about the fact that it is possible for you to achieve something. So maybe what you're releasing is any remnants of self-doubt, or of thinking that you need some kind of conditions to be perfect in order for you to take some kind of action, or the fear that you won't succeed. But Spirit's saying that you have been given a mission, like you've been given a download of some kind. You know what this is. And you might have been like thinking, is it possible? Am I really going to be able to achieve this? But a part of you knows. Okay, so it's making me think about this movie. It's making me think exactly about this movie. The movie is called 14 Peaks, and I watched it the other day. And it's about this Nepalese mountaineer called Nims Purja, who basically comes up with this project possible. And he calls it that because everyone thinks that it's impossible. Anyway, he comes up with this idea that he's going to climb all of the 14 highest mountains in the world, like 8,000 meter plus peaks, within 7 months. So the fastest time before him that anyone had completed all 14 mountains was 7 years. So he was doing something that the record was 7 years and his goal was 7 months. Keep in mind that when you're climbing these mountains in the Himalayas, like these 8,000 meter peaks, there's like a 1 in 4 chance that you will die summiting the mountain. So he basically managed to complete it in 6.5 months. He did all 14 mountains. And it was just this incredible activation for me and my partner when we watched this movie, because it really felt like this sense of all is possible. And when Spirit puts something into your mind, into your heart, where you're like, I know that I can do this, even if every single other person in the world thinks that that is not possible. Like this guy, he called it Project Possible because everyone told him that he couldn't do it, that he wasn't going to be able to do it. People thought it was coming from his ego, people judged him, people in the mountaineering scene were like, you're kidding, you're not going to be able to do this. People doubted him, people tried to get him to not do it, his family didn't support him. And I felt like that was so meaningful as a part of the documentary, because it shows that we don't actually need other people to understand. We don't actually need other people's permission. We don't need their approval in order to achieve something. Just because every single person around you doesn't think that something is possible, that doesn't mean that it's not possible. You know, that doesn't mean that it is impossible. That's just their perception at that time, in that moment. But once you've achieved it, like Nim's Purger went out with his team to achieve, and he did it, then everyone's like, oh, well, I guess it is possible then. I guess it is possible. So what we believe is possible, it can change. So if you feel inspired, I would definitely recommend that movie. If you feel like it has an activation there for you, it definitely did for me. And he was aware as well. This is what made it feel so spiritual for me. Like, he didn't mention spirit necessarily, but you could tell that he had strong faith. I feel like it's like he had a download from spirit that he was meant to do this mission of like climbing the 14 mountains. And he was gifted with this natural ability as well, because he had natural ability to breathe with like less oxygen available or something. Like, they did this testing on him in a clinic in London, and he had like this incredible natural ability to basically survive in the mountains in that lowered oxygen area. He had like the perfect physicality for it, and of course he came from the ancestry of like the Sherpa people as well, which is the local mountain guides of Nepal. So anyway, he had this natural physical ability. He had like other things in his life. I'm not going to spoil the movie, you can watch the movie, but he had other things in his life that built him up for this mission. And then he had the download from spirit that this is what he was meant to do. Yes, he faced a lot of people doubting him, but he didn't doubt to the point that, like, he kept his faith and he kept his belief. And he was also able to shift other people's frequency and other people's belief through himself. And he created this hugely inspiring story that he also felt like that it was meant to uplift like all of the people of Nepal as well. Like, he had a very deep kind of meaning behind why he was doing this. Anyway, so basically we need to expand about what we believe is possible or impossible. And we are allowed to set huge goals, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's coming from the ego, as in that it's coming from a negative place in the ego. That can be coming from spirit. That can be coming from a healthy sense of confidence, because spirit has put this into your mind that you are meant to do this and that you can do this. So there's a message here as well about protection, because this man, Nim's Purger, in the film, like I said, one in four mountaineers will die doing their art, doing their like love of climbing mountains. That's a lot. That's a freaking lot. Okay, and he had more than 4 people on his team, and none of them died, and they did it 14 times in a row. Like, the statistics of that is just incredible. Not to mention natural disasters like avalanches, storms, all these different variables that can come into play. So there is such a thing as divine protection. Like, when we are doing our path, when we're on our mission, we do have access to a different level of angelic support and protection. Just like Nim's Purger was protected on the mountains because he had the download from spirit, he had the permission, it was in alignment with the highest good of all for him to achieve this. And he showed up and he did what he needed to do on his side of the mission, and he brought the right people along with him. So you're protected. You're protected in something that you're here to do, a mission that you're here to accomplish, and you can trust in that protection more than you ever have before, because the bigger the risk, the more that you see how protected and loved that you are. If we just give ourselves if we just step outside our comfort zone just for one little tiny step and then come out and be like, oh, I was protected, it's a different feeling to when you're just like, you really are out there and you realize that you are protected. Like, there's something about you are being pushed outwards where you're going to find out just how protected you are. There's not going to be any doubt or question or confusion. You're going to be like, yes. And spirit wants to clear the air with you about this. Like, spirit wants to clear the air, clear the energy, because spirit wants you to know this, that you are protected by the angels, that you are destined for success, that you have answered, like, that you are answering the call of spirit. You don't have to worry if people around you are like, you're making a terrible mistake, or they're judging you and thinking your confidence is just from your ego, when really it's from your faith. It's from your deep faith. So you're allowed to step into your power. Like, there has to be a certain level of, like, this man, Nim's Purger, I keep coming back to him for your reading, but he's very inspiring. Like, he had to have a certain level of confidence that people around him didn't understand, and people around him would have projected a lot of different things onto him because they didn't understand him and they didn't understand his energy or his message, because he was at a higher frequency. And in fact, a lot of people were probably triggered by him, instead of kind of being inspired by him. And a lot of people would have been like, he's arrogant, he's cocky, he's all of these things. But it's like, well, sometimes that's just someone in their power, and that can feel kind of confronting, because there might be areas in our life where we're not in our power, where we haven't been like, yes, I can climb 14 mountain peaks in 7 months and have that much self-belief. It's like, wow. So there's something that you're doing right now where you're stepping into your power, you're answering the call, you're releasing the remnants of self-doubt. Like, I want to say remnants because I don't feel like I feel like you've done a lot of work to clear that out, but there's like this overwhelming truth that Spirit wants you to become one with. There's like this overarching or overwhelming, like all-encompassing truth, which is about your power and your ability and the fact that you can achieve your mission, you can achieve these downloads, you can achieve what it is that you've envisioned or that you will envision. Because a lot of people around you would think it's not possible, or they might be telling you that it's not possible, that you're not possible, that it's not possible, that you're not going to get there, that you're not going to succeed. And Spirit wants you to know that that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you won't succeed. Sometimes we can feel really like unsettled by not having the support of people around us. And it can be like confusing, and we can think we need the support of people around us. And ideally, yes, we would surround ourselves with supportive people. But maybe at this point in your mission, that's not going to be there, and that's okay. Maybe it'll just be 1 or 2 close people who really see you and get you, and the other people are going to be like, you know what, this doesn't make any sense to me. I have no idea what you're doing, or you're making a huge mistake, or you're not going to succeed at that. What are you thinking? There's something about being okay with the fields of disbelief, because they're not going to disappear before you've achieved it, kind of thing. Like, it's okay for them to be there. That doesn't mean that they're going to impact you negatively, because you have this protection by the angels, and that's what Spirit's trying to say. Even if these people are sending you negative energy and thinking you're not going to be able to achieve this, or you're not good enough at this, or whatever, it doesn't actually have to affect you. That's like some superpower that I'm seeing you stepping into more and more, where it's like other people's naysaying, like, and fields of disbelief, they don't have to get to you. They don't have to trickle in and make you doubt and make you fear and things like that. It's like you can stay within the energy of the angels and within the protection of the angels, realizing that all is possible. Like, seriously, think about how protected Nimsparja and his team were to do 14 mountains in 7 months and escaping like completely without any injury or anything. Like, that is some spiritual protection. That's some divine energy. My gosh, like, that is divine. That amount of divine order where nothing go, like, it's amazing. So Spirit's saying, like, a lot of people would, well, before it happened, pretty much everyone thought that it was impossible. Like, his wife believed in him, and I'm not sure, I mean, his teammate, like the other people that he climbed with, believed in him. So he had that good energy surrounding him. But he also had to believe in himself more than anything else. And he had to believe enough to be a leader for others and to keep the frequency in the energy of belief. It was such a powerful movie, you guys. Like, I really am thinking about it more, because there was this time, Spirit really wants me to go into it, okay? So there was this time in the movie where they're like halfway through climbing the mountains, right? And it's like such a huge thing. And they get to K2. And anyone who knows about K2, it is the most notorious mountain. It's more notorious than Mount Everest in terms of it's more deadly. It's more crazy. Like, there's more chance of dying, and it's more crazy in terms of weather and other risky aspects to it. So it's considered like more dangerous, right? Anyway, so they get to K2, and there's all of these people at the base camp of K2 that were there at the mountain to climb. They were there to climb the mountain, but they were all there, and they were all in this field of like negative energy. They were all in this negative mindset where they were like, there'd been several avalanches, and I think even some other climbers may have even passed away due to the avalanches. And they were like, it's not the right year on the mountain. They were telling these guys, the Nimsparja and his team, they were like, it's not a good time to climb on the mountain, you guys. We're not going to climb. We think it's bad energy. We think it's bad vibes. You should just go home, and we're not climbing this year. And Nim's Purger was like, no, we're doing this. He was like, I have a good feeling about this, it's fine, you know. And he managed to actually influence the energy at the camp to get like half of those people who weren't going to climb and were going to give up, to get them to come with them and summit. And they managed to summit. I'm spoiling the movie so much, but whatever. They managed to summit the K2 mountain. And it was this amazing like energy for me, like where I saw the way that he was able to influence the energy, where he wasn't sucked into those negative fields of disbelief where they're like, it's impossible, there's been, you know, tragedy on the mountain, we're not doing it. And he was able to hold his own frequency of belief and faith and being like, no, this is a divine, like I'm meant to be here, I'm meant to climb this mountain right now, I know that we can do this, I know that we're protected. He was able to have that much belief and faith that he could get other people to come up the mountain with him, and they did it. They actually did it. You know, they achieved something that is incredibly challenging to do, climb K2 and summit it. So what I'm trying to say is like this energy that's being born within you at the moment is powerful. Like it's as big of a deal as that, as like climbing 14 mountains, 14 of the climbing the 14 tallest mountains of the world within 7 months. I mean, even 7 years is insane to me. Like this is something that some mountaineers wouldn't even get through in a lifetime, right? Because like each mountain is such a big deal. So anyway, the other thing I would say is being released in this energy field is a sense of like not having clarity, or a sense of confusion. Like you might be like, I don't know if I'm meant to be a leader or not. I don't know if I'm meant to start this business or not. I don't know if I'm meant to step out into the world in this way, or release this book, or share my voice, or like that kind of sense of I don't know, I'm confused. It's like gone. None of that. And it's like you have divine clarity of this is my mission. Just like you have a huge download. Like it's going to be something. If you haven't already downloaded it already, because a lot of you guys might already have this massive download from Spirit and you might have been with it for quite some time, and you're stepping into a massively powerful embodiment of this download, like where actually you're succeeding and you're embodying it and you're letting go of the doubt of like, maybe this isn't true, maybe this isn't possible, all of that stuff is gone. But for others of you, it might be a download that's coming in for you still. And it's going to be as big as the 14 mountains in 7 months kind of mission, where it's like everyone's like, that's not possible. And you're like, yes it is, I've seen it, Spirit showed me. And they're like, no, but still though, that's just not possible, it's not a good idea, man. And it's like, no, I know that it's right, like it's possible, it's happening. So it could also be deeply connected to the new earth as well, because I'm feeling a strong new earth energy. Like new earth in itself is a miracle, right? It's like a lot of people right now would be like, this is not possible, but it is. So yeah, there's some like intense truth that you're going to be embodying, where it's like there's not going to be any room for doubt, because you're so powerful in it. It's like there's not going to be any room for the doubt, or you're not going to hold space for people who have their fields of disbelief. Like it's not going to bother you. Like it's just going to be like, oh well, they just can't perceive right now of what I can perceive, and it's just like water off a duck's back, rather than like, oh my god, I'm so disappointed, I'm so heartbroken, this person can't see what I can see. It's like, well, you might not have a huge amount of people that have this level of consciousness right now on the earth, right, that can actually see the place that you're going, or the thing that you're building, or what it is that you're dreaming of. It's like, that's okay, but you are going to have a handful of people that will support you, just like the Nim's Purger guy had. But there will be a huge collective that will doubt you until the very moment that you do achieve it and succeed, and then they will be like, oh, so it is possible, you know. Oh, I guess it is possible then. And then you'll get that kind of sense of, well, Spirit's saying even then even then, sometimes people, even if you have proof like that this is possible, I just did it, they might still find a way of being triggered by you and projecting. So it's like you're not holding out for universal popularity here, but it's about moving through those ways that the fields of disbelief can impact you, so that they don't impact you. And it's genuinely like water off a duck's back, where it's like, this person can't see what I can see, and that's okay. They're not meant to see it right now. That's not in their path for them to see it right now, or whatever it is, like whatever acceptance looks like for you. Letting it go so that it doesn't impact your frequency, and it doesn't impact your life, and it doesn't impact your manifestations. Yeah, and I'm just seeing you being this fiercely passionate, leader, like shining really bright, being extremely successful in whatever field it is that you're in, and just having this extreme triumph, this extreme like version of something that people believe is impossible, but being made possible and being created as possible. So I guess the biggest thing I see you releasing is the shadows of self-doubt and limitation, where you might doubt in yourself or doubt in spirit's ability to protect you or look after you, because you're like, how am I supposed to survive this mission? I'm hearing something like that for some of you guys. You're like, how am I supposed to survive this mission, spirit? This is so impossible. And it's like understanding that when something is divinely aligned, like this Nim's Purger guy with his 14 peaks mission, then you will be protected. Right? There is something bigger going on that you can tune into. And I'm just seeing a very peaceful kind of coming home to this awareness of, oh, I am protected by the angels, and healing whatever it was that kind of took you away from knowing that, like any kind of traumas or pains or griefs or sorrows that might make you feel like you're not protected and loved by the angels at all times. So it's like releasing that and receiving success at your mission and proving to the world something that the world thinks is impossible, and progressing the consciousness of humanity greatly by expanding the collective consciousness and expanding the fields of belief to include more and more and more and more and more. All right, group 3, much love to you and take really good care, okay? Bye.